She had the nerve to chain my driveway shut and tell me I was trespassing on my own land. The same land my great-grandfather carved out of the mountains with his bare hands a century ago. And when I looked past her smug Range Rover, I saw them, 8 glass and steel mansions lined up across my valley like tombstones, each one choking out the wildflowers and streams I grew up with. That was the moment I realized this wasn't just some nosy neighbor problem. This was war. And the queen of the Homeowners Association had picked the wrong mountain man to mess with. My name's Jackson Cole. I'd been away for 3 years, breaking my back on oil rigs in North Dakota to cover my mother's medical bills, watching her memory fade away piece by piece until she passed 6 months ago. Coming back to the cabin was supposed to be healing. That cabin isn't just wood and nails, it's legacy. Sweat soaked into the walls. Storms survived. Laughter and grief shared by generations. But the homecoming I pictured, the one with the smell of pine and quiet wind through the valley, was replaced by fertilizer stench and the artificial green of manicured lawns. And standing there to welcome me wasn't family, wasn't a neighbor. It was Vivian Ashcroft, the self-proclaimed president of Pine Hollow Estates, clipboard in hand like a sheriff's badge. She sized me up with that realtor smile, the one that calculates your worth before you open your mouth. "Mr. Cole," she said, voice dripping with syrup, "this is private property now, and your cabin doesn't meet community standards." I laughed, but it wasn't funny. "Ma'am, my family owned this valley before your parents were born. That cabin's mine." Her grin sharpened. "Not anymore." Then she shoved a manila envelope into my chest, thick as a brick, 47 violations. The crimes: a roof too weathered, a woodshed too rustic, wildflowers not on their approved list. The fines stacked up to over 70 grand. She gave me 30 days, or she'd slap a lien on my property. I walked back to the cabin with that envelope, feeling like the ground had shifted under me. I didn't sign up for any HOA. How the hell could they control my land? That night, I went to the county clerk's office. Old Ms. Carpenter, who'd been there since Carter, pulled the files, and just like I hoped, no signature of mine on any covenant. In Colorado, no unanimous consent, no binding HOA. Vivian had nothing but a stack of paper and an inflated ego. Still, that didn't stop her. A few mornings later, she showed up again, this time with 3 lackeys in matching jackets, cameras clicking like paparazzi. They pointed at my porch, my truck, even my firewood pile like it was contraband. "We're conducting a compliance inspection," Vivian announced. I stood with my coffee steaming in my hand, voice steady but boiling inside. "This is private land. You're trespassing." She waved her papers like a wand. "Section 4.7 of the bylaws gives us full authority." I cut her off. "Bylaws that don't apply to me." Her face flushed crimson. She hissed as she climbed back into her SUV. "You'll regret this attitude." She kept her word. The next day, my mailbox was stuffed with violation letters. They fined me for my outhouse from the 1920s, for parking my old F-250 in my driveway, for storing firewood outside. Each notice was signed in her jagged chicken, scratch handwriting. I felt the trap tightening. And that night, I sat at the table with the pile of papers spread out like a battlefield. My chest was heavy. Maybe she was right. Maybe I couldn't win. Maybe clinging to this cabin was nothing but stubborn pride. I'd worked my whole life just to keep my family afloat. And now this woman with perfect nails and a poisoned smile was threatening to erase all of it. For a moment, I thought about packing up and leaving, just disappearing. But then I ran my fingers across the grain of the old wooden table, remembering my grandfather's stories of winters when the snow came up to the roofline, and how this cabin had kept them alive. I remembered my mom, in one of her clearer moments, grabbing my hand and saying, "Don't let anyone take the valley from you, Jack." That was enough. If Vivian wanted a fight, I'd give her one. First step, surveillance. I bought trail cameras from the local hardware store, set them around the property. Within days, I had footage of Vivian and her committee sneaking onto my land at dawn, whispering about stacking up violations, plotting to claim my septic system was polluting the creek. Their voices came through clear as day. The more pressure we apply, the sooner he'll sell. That recording was gold. Sure enough, the county health officer showed up, saying he got a complaint. I welcomed him in, let him test everything. My septic system was cleaner than most new installs. Then I handed him a USB drive with Vivian's own voice conspiring to falsify complaints. He shook his head, muttering, "This is serious." I knew then I had leverage, and I wasn't going to waste it. But Vivian escalated. She orchestrated a full media circus, county trucks, inspectors. Even a news van rolled up like I was running a toxic dump. Cameras flashed, making my family's cabin look like a crime scene. And who do I see just out of frame? Vivian, platinum hair gleaming, playing the role of concerned citizen. I walked straight up to the reporter, pulled out my phone, and showed her trail cam footage of Vivian trespassing and plotting false reports. The reporter's eyes lit up, Vivian's face drained of color. For the first time, she realized I wasn't just some mountain hermit she could bulldoze. Still, she doubled down. More fines, more threats. Then the power company cutting my electricity pending HOA approval. Imagine boiling coffee over a camp stove in your own home because some HOA queen decided you weren't compliant. Then came the lawsuit, her husband's Denver law firm demanding $250,000 in damages. But their paperwork was sloppy. They claimed damages for months when I wasn't even in the state. That mistake made me grin for the first time in weeks. At the library, I dug deeper. What I found stunned me. My great-grandfather's original homestead patent from 1924 not only gave us the surface land, but the mineral rights beneath the entire valley. And guess what? When the family sold off parcels decades ago, they only sold surface rights. Every single one of those multi-million-dollar mansions sat on top of my mineral rights, legally. That valley was still mine in ways Vivian hadn't even imagined. I hired a property rights lawyer, Roxanne Blackwell, sharp as they come. She laid it out plain. Jack, not only is their HOA illegitimate, but every permit issued for those houses is invalid without notifying you as mineral rights holder. You've got them by the throat. With her help, we filed for an injunction to freeze all HOA activity and flagged evidence of embezzlement. Millions siphoned through Vivian's shell companies. It wasn't just harassment anymore. It was organized fraud. Vivian must have sensed the walls closing in, because that night I caught 3 masked figures creeping around with gas cans. They were about to torch my cabin. I stepped out with my grandfather's old lever action rifle, made sure they saw the steel. "Beautiful night for a walk, isn't it?" I said. They bolted, dropping their supplies, gasoline, flares, even a timing device. Sheriff Daniels came up, collected the evidence, and said, "Jack, This isn't just HOA bullying anymore. This is arson, conspiracy, maybe even racketeering. He also hinted the FBI had been sniffing around similar HOA scams in other states. It all came crashing down fast after that. Federal agents raided Pine Hollow estates, seizing documents, hard drives, cash. News stations called it the biggest HOA fraud case in Colorado history. Vivian was led out of her mansion in handcuffs, still yelling about how she was protecting property values. Her husband tried sneaking files into a car, caught on camera by the FBI, obstruction of justice in broad daylight. Their empire unraveled overnight. I stood on my porch, coffee in hand, watching the helicopters circle the valley, the same valley my family once farmed and hunted freely, now crawling with federal agents, gathering evidence against the very people who tried to erase me. I didn't cheer, I didn't wave, I just breathed in the mountain air that finally smelled like pine again, not perfume and fertilizer. Vivian's downfall was spectacular. Court found her guilty of fraud, racketeering, embezzlement, even attempted arson by proxy. She got 25 years in federal prison and restitution that'll take lifetimes to repay. Her platinum hair and fake smile replaced by an orange jumpsuit and shackles. The woman who thought she owned my valley was escorted out like a common criminal, her empire crumbling behind her. I didn't celebrate, because it wasn't about revenge. It was about reclaiming what was mine, proving that one stubborn mountain man could stand up to power, money, and intimidation, and win. As she was dragged past reporters, she locked eyes with me, screaming that it wasn't over, that I'd ruined everything. I just stared back, silent, because the truth was already louder than her voice. The valley is quiet again, and justice finally has an echo here. Lesson learned. Never let bullies in suits or clipboards convince you they own what's rightfully yours.